I have it's about time to start if we're all ready and willing and able. We all look ready, willing, and able, and
Mhm.
nice and peaceful. Let's breathe 3 times together consciously. And with a deep in breath.
Oh,
Shanti, shanti, shanti. And here we are, the fifth agreement
okay.
by Don Miguel Ruiz and Don Jose Ruiz. The fifth agreement, be skeptical, but learn to listen. Here's where we left off last week. If you understand the fifth agreement, be skeptical, but learn to listen, you will see the truth doesn't come with words. It doesn't come with words. The truth is silent. It's something you just know. You just know. It's something you can feel without words. And it's called, or Don Jose calls it, silent knowledge. Silent knowledge. So is this true for any of you that sometimes the words in your mind just swirl around, but then sometimes you just know what's true and what's not?
Mhm.
You're suspicious of what's going on in your mind may not be true. He asks us to look at ourselves and see if this is true for ourselves. Sometimes we just know something and we feel it beyond the words, the silent knowledge. So he's going to get into that and some other things. I have 2 fun exercises planned. I think you'll enjoy them. They won't be long. Silent knowledge. Silent knowledge is what you know before you invest your faith in symbols, before you invest your faith in your reactionary nature, just whatever comes up, what words come up in your mind, what thoughts come up in your mind. We may have even had an experience in our life where we have a certain pattern, a certain reaction comes up, and later on we find out that it's just not true.
Mhm.
Sometimes things we learn in childhood and repeat. At some point in our adulthood, we realize, oh my goodness, I had my faith in those symbols and that word, but I'm now I just feel it's not the truth anymore. Before you invest your faith, silent knowledge. When you learn to listen, then all the symbols lose, well, I wouldn't say all their value, but some of their value. Our thoughts lose some of their value. And the only thing that remains is the truth. So when we can look beyond, from time to time, our own minds, what remains is the truth. Of course, we depend on our minds most of the time because we're not really thinking most of the time, we're living our lives. So we depend on our minds, our habits, our values, our beliefs to get us through the day. But sometimes we need to listen to ourselves and let those symbols lose their value. And when we go beyond that, go beyond our own mind, the only thing that remains is the truth. In the Tao Te Ching, there's a favorite saying of mine. Can you step back from your own mind and thus understand all things? I usually repeat that once a day in the morning, a little pattern I have, and it's interesting. When I step back from my own mind, I'm actually stepping back from saying that. So my mind is saying, can you step back from your own mind and thus understand all things? I try to hear myself saying that so I can truly step back. It's an interesting exercise.
It's almost like you're speaking in third person. Is that right? It's kind of like this consciousness.
Yeah, there Steve goes again. I can hear him. He's saying, when you step back from your own mind, and then you understand all things.
Yeah.
There he goes saying that again.
Yeah.
It's similar to when you're meditating.
Yes.
And suddenly you notice that your mind has been wandering from what you want to meditate on.
Mm-hmm.
So which part of you notices that your mind is wandering? What's that? Your mind is chattering away. So it's not your mind that's noticing it, but part of you notices your mind is chattering away. What part of you is that?
I think it's called metta, M-E-T-T-A.
Yeah, that's a new word for me.
Well, we could give it whatever symbol or word we wish.
Right.
He calls it silent knowledge because a part of us that's outside of our minds notices, oh, my mind is straying.
Yeah.
And then we make an attempt to come back to our meditative practice. My little thing I do when I notice that is I say, oh, thank you for sharing. The mind is a thing. God bless you. You're going off again. Sometimes that works, and sometimes the mind just keeps cranking back. So it's in the mind that we know things, quote unquote. And that's what the mind keeps reminding us of, the things it knows.
Yeah.
He says there's nothing to know, there's nothing to justify. Nothing to know, nothing to justify. But that's what the mind does, doesn't it? When it cranks off on its own, it starts telling you what it knows and it starts justifying things, making up stories, justifying why you're right, and so on. That's its job. That's what it does. He says, what I'm sharing with you isn't easy to understand. And that's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't easy to understand. Somehow we need to access a different place in ourselves than the place that understands things. So in a way, we really can't understand it, but perhaps we can feel it and get in touch with some experience that validates this. It isn't easy to understand, and at the same time, it's so simple, he says, that it's obvious. Can you step back from your own mind? That's pretty simple. Just that feeling, oh my gosh, my mind is wandering. What part of you noticed that? It wasn't your mind. Can we get more in touch with that part of us that notices things like that? That's pretty simple. May not be obvious. He asserts in the end, you're going to realize that languages are symbols that are only true because you think they are. And if you put them aside, what remains? Language is only symbols. We invest our faith in those symbols, though, don't we? We invest our faith in what we believe. And they're true because we think they are. Think they are means we've put our faith. We're in a situation and we just say something that comes up, seems appropriate. Someone says something and we notice a truth that they haven't noticed. So we want to share our truth with them because we're loving, helpful people. We want to offer something helpful. Well, actually, we want to fix them, but mind
Or
doesn't
be right.
be right. But the mind doesn't say that. The mind just comes up and, oh, I'm
No.
just noticing something they're not noticing. And I'm so eager to share it with them so they can know where they've gone amiss, or I want to give them some extra knowledge. So wherein, wherein lies the truth of that information that popped into our heads that we're so eager to share? It's only true because we think it's the truth. We think that those symbols, which is what the language is true, because we think they're true. That's why it's so important whenever we hear something and we want to react and pop out with some really useful, loving, appreciated new information that people will be so happy to hear. They can't wait for us to open our mouths and share this new information that will help them live a better life and be happier. And well, that's the mind's job. That's how it works. But what if we can learn when the mind, thinking it's true, wants to say that another part of us, that part that noticed we weren't meditating, that part of us can pause. Remember the pause before you speak? The pause. Between your action and your reaction, there's a space. Viktor Frankl said, and in that space lies your freedom. In that pause.
Got some incredible quotes. That's beautiful. Thank you, Steve, for reminding us.
And in that pause, in that space between action and your reaction, and you remember a spiritual practice. The old saying from the Arab world is, let me see, what is my gatekeeper to speech before I speak? Okay, let's see. Is what I'm planning to say, number one, is it true? Okay, now hold on, Steve. Is it really true? Just the way you're going to say it, or are you planning on spinning it just a little bit in your favor? Come on, Steve. Is it really 100% just the unadulterated, unjudgmental, unopinionated facts? And you may say, well, yeah, I think so. All right. What's the next gatekeeper? Do you remember?
Is it kind?
Is it kind? Is it kind? Will people feel absolutely loved and made right, know they're loved and that there's no right or wrong? Is it kind? Well, you may say to yourself, yeah, it's not so bad. It's sort of kind. They could use it.
Not so bad.
So what's the third gatekeeper?
Is it necessary?
Mm-hmm.
Is it necessary? Usually it isn't. Where in you does this ability to pause come in? And the ability to remember the three gatekeepers, where does that come from? I would suggest that's your silent knowledge that steps up when your mind is just running away. And your mind is just speaking the symbols that are only true because we think they're true. So if we put them aside, what remains? Maybe a silence, maybe the three gatekeepers.
I call it the listening consciousness. It's
Yes,
the
the
quiet,
listening consciousness.
yeah. It's the indwelling, quiet, heart-centered place, yearning to be seen, to matter, to make a difference.
Yes, the
And yet,
listening consciousness.
yeah, and yet if I just sit in stillness, my listening consciousness arises, and I can let go of my story easier. Not always, but
And what does Don
That was
Miguel
good.
Ruiz call your listening consciousness?
uh, probably the first
skeptic-
agreement.
Be skeptical, but learn to listen.
Yes, be skeptical and learn to listen.
But be skeptical, but the learn to listen is the other side of it.
Yes,
First, you're skeptical,
yes,
but on the other hand, I'm going to listen deeply to myself.
yeah. First, be skeptical of our own egoic
All right.
chatter, right?
Be skeptical of what your mind said. It's so beautiful. It's going to fix everybody and help everybody out. And so everybody needs to know this. It's really important. I wish they knew this. I know this. I've had so much experience. They just haven't had it. And if I just share this with them, they'll be enlightened. You know, be skeptical of that.
Yeah.
But even though you're skeptical of that, our minds are a beautiful thing. Learn to listen to our minds rather than be controlled by them. So the truths are there. If we think they're true, put them aside. What remains? It's that learning to listen, isn't it? And that's where the truth is.
Yeah.
When we learn to listen, the truth there. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? That part of us looks at the truth.
You know, I'm trying to take this through my mind, which of course is not the idea, but that sounds to me like the be skeptical part, because when you have a silent knowledge like we started off with, it often comes to me from a belief system. Just like, you know, when you go from one channel to the next channel, if you're on one channel, your silent knowledge is this is the truth, and you go to another channel and your silent knowledge is this is false, and that differs with different people. So I think your first thing comes from your belief systems, and then the be skeptical thing to me is by asking those questions to try to get beyond your belief systems down into being able to listen to, as Sam says, listen to your heart.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was my take.
That listening witness, yes. This is interesting, Susan, what you said. It's an example of how when we hear these words from Senor Ruiz, we all hear them a little bit differently based on our own belief systems.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to incorporate these into our lives or not, based on where we are and how we understand things. And the interpretation we have is fine, but we shouldn't even take our interpretations too seriously, is what he's saying. Because,
Right, but sometimes our gut reactions are based on our belief systems.
right.
I would think most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what this whole chapter is about, is to shine the light to our reactions and live in a life of response,
Mm-hmm.
recognizing our reactions in terms of our, thoughts, beliefs, sides, right? Especially with political sides. So I think the whole idea here is to be skeptical with our own egoic reactions and shine the light to the honest truth, which is before the words. It's the heart space, the consciousness, listening to our heart.
Yes, I like when you say it's the hardest thing. I'm going to offer a distinction for you. Let's see if it makes sense. I would say we have two kinds of reaction that come up. One is a gut reaction, which, as you said, is often based on our belief system, way we lead our lives. That's our gut reaction. I would say there's another kind of reaction we have. I'm going to call it a heart reaction.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So the gut reaction, like you say, is based on our belief system. Oh my God, in my guts, I feel like this is wrong or this is right.
Which is really a thought, it's an assumption, right? It's a belief.
Our gut reactions are more intellect or belief system based.
Right, I would agree with that.
That's what I've heard you guys say. The gut reaction comes up, and wow, that's how I see things. But then beyond that, there's another part of us where we might have a heart reaction. And in our heart reaction, we access that in that pause. Before we allow our gut reaction to come out, in that pause, we might choose to look for our heart reaction. And in the heart reaction, we might say, well, is it true? My gut reaction, really?
I think, and I think mostly in me, my heart reactions have led me to my gut reactions. I mean, that it set those up in my belief system. I think mine are one and the same.
I got it.
And I don't see politics as in a, I don't know, as in a right or wrong. I see it as issue of more morality more than anything else right now.
Well, politics sure invades our thoughts a lot these days, doesn't it?
Right.
It's so present.
But I think my gut reactions come from my heart reactions and what I think is right and wrong. I can see that they can be separate, but I don't, in my case, I don't think they are. Maybe.
So that may be right, and possibly not, but it feels right. So what I'm hearing you say is sort of like a belief. So we'll just hold it as a lovely belief, and maybe we want to leave it alone, or maybe we'll look at it another time. Let's see where he takes us here with this. He says the truth. When you see a chair and you won't know what to call it, but you can sit in it, and the truth is there. So it's the difference between calling things right, calling things wrong.
Got it.
And just
very good. I understand now.
Yeah.
So there's a chair, there's a politician, there's something they do. Our gut or heart, whatever reaction wants to name it as something based on our moralistic output, perhaps. But with this teaching, he suggests we might come to a point where we're not sure what to call it, but we can sit in it and just observe it. He suggests the truth is there. I see the truth that he's trying to lead us to as like a little mountaintop somewhere. And there are many paths up this mountaintop. And each one takes a different path based on who we are, where we are now. But he's suggesting on the way up the mountain, we'll be able to see something and we'll just be a little skeptical about how we judge it, call it, and react to it, and notice that it's there. And he says that's the truth. It's just there. He says matter is truth. The chair, your body, your house. Thoughts are like matter. They're just like the truth, whether you believe them or not. He says life is truth. Life is truth. He says light. Light is truth. That's truth.
Dave, this sounds like the needs consciousness.
Here's one more example. He says love
Yeah.
is truth.
Yes. These are needs consciousness. Yes. I get it.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
these are examples of truth, he suggests, outside of what we judge as right and wrong, outside of our gut or heart reactions, whatever they are. He suggests these are the truth, which are outside of our reactive nature. I have an exercise coming up where we can play with this. The human dream, he says, is not truth, but not being truth doesn't mean it's bad.
Mhm.
On our case, being bad is just another concept. It's not the truth either, but it's just a concept. Our morality, the part that riles us up, makes the hair stand up on our head, makes us sweat, or makes us smile. It comes from a concept. So the concepts aren't the truth, he suggests. Matter is truth. Life is truth. Love is truth. I hope my example will help us with it. Once you realize that you create the whole symbology to communicate with your own kind and with yourself, talking to ourselves, then you find out that the symbols are not really good or bad, right or wrong. So the things our mind comes up with are not necessarily right, but they're not wrong. And they're not really good, but they're not bad. They just are what they are. They are what they are. Our symbology, our language is not good or bad or right or wrong. It just is what it is. We make them right. He suggests you make them right, or you make them wrong with your beliefs. And we're all sharing our beliefs now. He's sharing his beliefs. That's what you're reading. This is what he believes. He's trying to be impeccable with his word, not make assumptions and so on. But they're just his beliefs. And as we react to what we hear, those are our beliefs. And he's made these beliefs, which he's sharing with us, right? And we make our beliefs, for the most part, right. Oh, our beliefs.
Yeah, it's the judgmental part of us that separates us from ourselves and others. When we can dig deep and let go of the egoic judgmental thoughts and just let things be, simmer in the beauty of those needs: light, love, peace.
You know, it's easy to talk about it, but I think it's a challenge to internalize all this.
Yeah.
Sure.
We talk about it, we react to it. It's a challenge to internalize it. Hopefully the exercise will help. Anyway, he says, that's the power of your belief, but the truth is beyond belief. He keeps insisting.
It's like living your life without an opinion.
Sort of like having opinions but not investing so much in.
Yeah.
We
Or
don't
being
mind.
able to see them is helpful. To
Yeah.
see that it is an opinion rather than
Right.
truth, like the chair is truth.
Yeah.
Yes. Can we just learn to pause before we take those hammers, which we call opinions, and bang on that nail? Just
Mhm.
pause.
Or at least open up to consider other options or alternatives, or listen to see if we can hear something that is truth. Wouldn't that be nice? Be helpful to hear something that's really true.
I know, especially in today's atmosphere. Here's something,
Mhm.
truth.
Reminds me of the caption for today's daily word. Listen, in the quiet of the heart, I listen for the voice of spirit.
Oh, thank you.
Same message.
Yeah.
That's,
What Quine Divine Divinity,
Mhm.
October 25th, Sunday morning.
that's what this whole class
Mhm.
is about.
Yeah.
Same thing. However, our beliefs have got us by the neck so much, it's really hard to step outside them. So here we go. When you go beyond symbols, which include your beliefs, what you find is a world of perfection, he says. My gosh, the world doesn't seem perfect these days, does it?
Mhm.
When you go beyond symbols, what you find is a world of perfection where everyone and everything in creation is perfect. Nothing missing, nothing needed to be subtracted, nothing needed to be added. I think we might have difficulty with that in these political days, saying everything is perfect. So he suggests it's possible. So, okay, we'll leave a little space for that, even though we're a little doubtful. Okay. Even the investment of your belief in every word is perfect. Got that? You believe, and your beliefs, you're invested in them. He says, even that's perfect. That's just the way it ought to be. So he's not judging any of us for being judgmental ourselves. He's saying, no, you're just a perfectly judgmental person. Me too. Great. We don't need to get on our cases for being judgmental. Oh, I shouldn't be so judgmental. Always judging who's right and who's wrong. We may just want to stay there, or we may find that a fault in ourselves. No, he says, it's not a fault.
What helps me with some of that, I think, is reminding myself that I'm the one who's creating my reality, and just looking and say, well, would you look at what I created? Imagine that.
Right.
And if I want to, I can change it. My
So
experience of it.
the investment in our reality we've created, that's perfect. Our investment that we might be able to change if we want to, that's perfect. It's just all the way it ought to be. Even your
Mhm.
anger, saying even your anger, that's perfect. Your drama, oh my God, the world is going to hell in a handbasket. I hope things
Mhm.
go a different way than the way they might go. Drama. He says, even that's perfect. And to the extent you notice you've sort of lied to yourself, even that's perfect. You may not want to admit that, maybe you've never noticed that, but if you do, that's perfect too. There's nothing, it's not just the way it ought to be. It's like a favorite verse of mine from the Tao Te Ching.
Hmm.
Can you see the world as yourself?
Mm.
Can you see the world as yourself? Have faith in the way things are. Can you love the world as yourself? Capital S self. So if you have faith in the way things are, well, I have faith in the way things are. So everything is turning out the way it ought to be, perfection. All the anger, the drama, the lies. My idea about myself, it's all just the way it ought to be. I have faith in the way things are. I love the world as myself. All these are little spiritual crutches, I might say, to help us recover so that we can stay in touch with our spirit aspect, our deep heart aspect when we need to. Even the hell that you sometimes live in is perfect. We sometimes think life's a mess because only perfection exists. Notice that this is an opinion. It may not be your opinion. He suggests you think about adopting this opinion. Try this opinion on for size. See what it feels like. Since as Susan says, we create our reality, let's try this opinion on, only perfection exists, and see if it makes the life we've created more beautiful. Or maybe it just creates a life that we don't like. Well, we'll drop that opinion then. Only perfection exists. See if it makes your life more beautiful. That's how to evaluate opinions and see if we want to adopt opinions so that they become one of our beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
Got it? It's just an opinion. If we disagree with this opinion, that's perfect too. You'd say, great, you disagree perfectly. Fantastic. Let's go on. Just imagine if you lived your whole life without learning all the lies in your knowledge. We may not even be aware we have any or agree with that. But he says, maybe they're there. Imagine if you lived your whole life without having learned those lies in your knowledge, without suffering from investing your faith in lies, superstitions, and opinions. It's suggesting we've invested our life in opinions.
I like to pause here. This is really a deepening of the key concept here, the power of doubt, without suffering from investing in your faith, the trust within, in the lies, superstitions, and opinions. That's deep. That's profound.
Notice that he's not saying we need to purge ourselves of lies,
Right.
superstitions, and opinions.
Just
No,
witness,
no. You may not be able to do that anyway. Nope. You don't need to get rid of them.
right. Just witness.
But you need to witness them and
Yeah.
notice if you're investing your faith in them.
Right.
And maybe become aware that there's some suffering
Right.
from investing your faith in certain ideas.
And noticing what's yours to do about them. I mean, sometimes this stuff comes up and it's perfect in order to get you to move or to grow.
Yes, we may have lies, superstitions, opinions that are sort of down there inside us that we've never really taken a look at. They don't come up very much. So the first step is always awareness. And from the awareness, there may be growth. I hope this exercise comes up soon because this is a lot of thinking.
I gotta wear it out.
No, we're almost done anyway. You would follow life like the rest of animal kind, which means you would keep your innocence your entire life, he suggests. You would follow life like the rest of animal kind, which means you keep your innocence your entire life. Animals have an innocence. I think this is the exercise time.
Is this example the like animal kind would, I mean, you would follow life like the rest of animal kind. Is that because, which means you would keep your innocence your entire life? Does that mean because of the judgmental thoughts that human beings create primarily and animal kingdoms don't?
Right? And
Okay.
they don't, do they?
No.
So that's what the exercise is about.
Now they do feel, I mean, they feel, you
Hmm.
know, threatened, they feel sad, but they don't have judgmental language.
Right? So they
Yeah.
have
But
feelings,
those feelings come from learning. I mean, they learn to be afraid.
right?
Right.
Yes.
So they learn what to associate with fear. They learn what to associate with kindness. But the interesting thing is, we'll do a little exercise now. If we look at animals, they don't retain judgments about them like we do, or opinions, because they don't have the same mental capabilities we have.
Right.
And we may project ourselves on the animal, but let's look deeply at an animal and see what comes up for us. And then we'll close for today. Would you be willing to use your imagination to see what it might be like to live in complete innocence?
Okay.
That's the question. Would you be willing to use your imagination to see what it might be like to live in complete innocence?
Yeah.
Just to see. I've changed the way we're going to do this a little bit. So rather than closing your eyelids, we're going to close our eyelids in a few minutes, but let's leave them open for now. But let's take 3 deep breaths together. Now that we've all taken 3 deep breaths together, let's check our eyelids and be sure they're open. Eyelids open. And here's an image I'm going to show you. You'll need to see it with your eyelids open. Ah,
Mm.
ah. We're going to use our imagination now to see the world through the eyes of this animal. So let's just stare at this for a couple of moments so we can internalize this image. Look at the animal's eyes. Look at the animal's nose. Look at the animal's ears. Look at his skin and his fur. Look at this doggy's eyes. Look at those eyes. Keeping this image firmly in your mind, now allow your eyes to gently close, your eyelids to close. Imagine that you see the world through the eyes of this doggy. See the world through the eyes of this doggy. Seeing the world through the eyes of this doggy. Do I see anyone as bad? Do I see anyone as good? Well, I know who gives me food. and I know who pets me, and I know who shouts at me, but do I see anyone as bad? Do I see anyone as good? Look at those eyes. Some people feed me and pet me. Do I see them as good? Or is that just a projection? Through those eyes, do I just see being fed and associate it with a person or a situation? Some people shout and kick at me. Do I see them as bad? Or is that a projection? Do I just see them as someone to avoid? Someone with the potential, maybe, to feed me or pet me. How do I see them? From this doggy's eyes, as I look out in the world, do I see anyone or anything as not perfect? Do I see anything that's not absolutely perfect? As this doggy, as I look out in the world with brown eyes, is this what I see? Life is truth. Light is truth. Love is truth. Now, with great gentleness, allow your eyes to slowly open. Congratulations, you're all great doggies.
Roof.
I can see you all did a good job of seeing the world through that beautiful, through the beautiful eyes of that dog. There he is. Hello.
Aw.
We saw the world through the eyes of that dog. We need to close now. Any final sharing before we close?
My dog's eyes were clouded all over with cataracts when she died, but she still looked at me with that trust, even when I was euthanizing her.
Aw. Well, that's love, and that's truth.
Love is truth. Light is truth, even though the cataracts impeded the light somewhat. Light is truth. Love is truth. Matter is truth. When the dog food showed up, that was truth. When the kids showed up to run after, that was truth.
Mhm. Wonder if fear is truth. It's like the good and bad translates into love and fear. It did to me with this dog exercise. So if love is truth, is fear truth too?
It is. This doggy looks on people who feed him with anticipation and love.
Mm-hmm.
But I can also see this doggy looking on people that don't like him, maybe shouts at him with the same love, wondering if even so they might feed him. Always open. Well, friends, it's been real. we're going to close. We had some nice shares here with our friend, the doggy. Any final comments or shares before we close?
Letting my ego go, heart listening consciousness is what I'm taking away. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, everyone.
Let's take 3 conscious, life-giving breaths together and notice the air flowing in and out. And with a deep in-breath, Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. May you all be blessed and have a beautiful doggy day.